thinking more about that. The poet T.S. Eliot, he wrote a play, I think it's called The Dinner Party, if I'm not mistaken, and there's a psychiatrist, and he's talking to a woman, and the woman is saying that, you know, she feels really messed up, and she's saying to him, I really, really hope that the problem is with me and not with the world. Which is interesting, because most of the time we think like, oh, I hope it's not me, I hope it's everybody else. And so the psychiatrist asks her, well, why do you hope it's you and not the world? She said, because if it's me, at least there's something I can do to fix it. But if it's the world, then I'm doomed. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't change the world. You know? So it's an interesting thing, the understanding that you can change yourself, but that you can't change the world. So if that's the case, you almost always have to hope that the real problems in your life are because of your bad decisions. Because if they are your bad decisions, then that means you can fix it by making better decisions. Or at least improve your situation, even if you can't fix and undo the things that you did in the past. I like that you guys are zeroing in on the lie specifically, which is good, to figure out what that lie is that we're telling ourselves. It says it's fateful and ironic, the lie we need in order to live. So figuring out what that lie is that you need. And all the ones that you guys gave are good options. You know, the lie could be something like religion, because you have to believe that there's an afterlife. Well, you have to believe there's an afterlife, otherwise your life right now doesn't matter. You know, like I was talking in one of my classes yesterday, and I was pointing out that we say things like, you know, live like there's no tomorrow. Live like there's no tomorrow. How would you live if there was no tomorrow? What would you do? So the asteroid's on the way, it's going to hit us tomorrow, there's no tomorrow. What would you do? What's that? Such as? Go bungee jumping? with or without a bungee? Doesn't matter, right? The world's going to end. There was a philosopher named John Paul Sartre, and this question was posed to him. He was sitting around one time with some of his students. They were playing chess, and they're asking him, like, you know, hey, what would you do if the world was going to end tomorrow? And one person's like, oh, I would get down to church and pray, you know, because, you know, geez, I really hope there's an afterlife. And then another student said that he would go down to a brothel. You know what that is? Prostitutes. So the point is that you've got these two very dramatically different ideas of how we'd spend the last moments if we knew they were coming. And then when they finally get around the table and they get to Sartre and he's playing the chess, they ask him, hey, Professor, what would you do? And he just looked at the board and he says, I'd finish this game. Yeah. The idea being that wherever he is filled with meaning and purpose. Even if it's just something like that game of chess, because if it wasn't filled with meaning and purpose, he wouldn't waste his time doing it. In other words, he saw life as being so, you know, ineffably short that you just don't have time to waste on things. You know, it's funny how we'll parse out time sometimes by saying things like, oh, what do you do in your free time? You know, what do you do in your downtime? What do you do in your work? There's no downtime. There's no free time. There's only time. So what should you do with that time? Well, that's probably fill it with as much as you possibly can. So the point that Sartre was making was that even this game of chess, he was doing it because that's where he wanted to be at that moment, and it was full of meaning and purpose. And so, you know, the problem that we can see it though is, if you do live like there's no tomorrow, and then let's say that, you know, think about the awful things that you would do, you know, if there's no tomorrow. And then let's just say that tomorrow does come, the asteroid turns out and misses us. And now you have to live with the consequences tomorrow of the things that you chose to do today. You know, now you can start to think like, oh my God, yeah, geez, am I going to prison? Am I, you know, think about where you would be. Now, the truth of the matter though is that that's what's kind of happening every day when we talk like that. Live like there's no tomorrow. How old are you? 15, 16 years old? So multiply that by 365, how many days you've been alive. Tomorrow has always come. Tomorrow has always come.
I guess you're like really dead end.
What's that?
I guess you're like really dead end, like if you get to face the consequences.
Well, exactly. So tomorrow always comes until it doesn't. But if tomorrow doesn't come, then today didn't really matter in the first place, did it? So it seems like the only really sensible thing to do is to try to set yourself up for tomorrow. You know, even when even if you're young, will say like, oh, I'm young, I've got time. No, you don't. You have time, but you don't have free time, downtime. There's no, all that you have is days to set yourself up for tomorrow. Because whatever you do today, you're setting yourself up for tomorrow. What that tomorrow looks like depends on what you do today. But you're always setting yourself up for tomorrow, whether you realize it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not. And so in the case of something like religion, maybe that's a lie that we say, because if we don't have that eternal tomorrow, then this lifetime of today, whether it's 25 years, whether it's 65 years, whether it's 100 years, doesn't matter unless we have that eternal tomorrow. Whatever that lie is that you tell yourself, if the lie that you tell yourself is, oh, I have lots and lots of time. There will be time, there will be time. There's almost no deeper lie from the pit of hell itself than that there will be time. How much time do you have? I don't know. Does your birth certificate have an expiration date on it? Probably not. Probably not. If it does, go see the doctor. It feels like a threat at that point. But that lie that we tell ourselves is the thing that dooms us to a life that's never really ours, because then you're not really living out the life that you would normally live out. You're living out a life that's dependent on something else, dependent on that tomorrow. In other words, it's never truly authentic. It's a life that's based off of a fiction, off of a lie. And so, simply put that way. I'll leave it at that, though. Questions? Comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Yeah. If you want to really challenge yourself, check out his book. It was written for a general audience. It did win the Pulitzer Prize. It was a public, it was a well-known book. It was a bestseller. But it's difficult. It's difficult not just in the reading, but it's difficult in the subject matter as well. So maybe wait a few years before you pick it up. But you can get it online for free, or through me.